For me, this issue has always been about standards. And unfortunately, because of some of the people that have been in political power for the last 4 years, priorities other than standards, lethality, and meritocracy have driven decision-making.
I'm quoting you from the podcast. Women shouldn't be in combat at all. Where is the reference to standards? That they should be there if they can carry, if they can run. I don't see that at all, Mr. Hegseth. What I see is that there's a 32-day period in which you suddenly have another description about your views of women in the military, and I just want to know.
Senator Elizabeth Warren came loaded for battle in this confirmation hearing, and she didn't waste a second tearing into Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense. And let's be clear, this wasn't about politics as usual. This was about accountability, consistency, and respect for the women who put on the uniform of the United States military. Warren took Hegseth's own words, year after year, interview after interview, and shoved them back in his face, exposing a 12-year pattern of open hostility toward women in combat roles. And when pressed on why he suddenly changed his mind right after Trump nominated him, well, his answers fell apart fast.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth. Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Hegseth, thank you. Thank you for your service. So if you're confirmed as Secretary of Defense, you will oversee our military, including about 250,000 women who currently serve on active duty in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Space Forces, and the Marines. And I have serious concerns that your behavior toward women disqualifies you from serving in this role. Now, I've been trying to get answers from you for quite some time on this. You haven't wanted to meet or to answer any of my questions, so we'll just have to do it here and dive in. I want to pick up on some of the questions asked by Senators Shaheen and Gillibrand and Hirono, and I just want to make sure we have a list of some of the facts that I think are undisputed. I'm not going to talk about anonymous sources. I'm just going to quote you directly. We've got the video. We've got it in print. So going back to January 2013, you told a Fox News interviewer that women in the military simply couldn't measure up to men in the military, saying that allowing women to serve in combat roles would force the military to lower the bar. You picked up on that same theme in 2015, making remarks on Fox News, referring to women in combat as, quote, it would erode standards. June 2024, you said on Ben Shapiro's podcast, quote, women shouldn't be in combat at all. And then, of course, we've talked about it in 2024. You published a book, and you say on page 26 of your book, we need moms, but not in the military, especially in combat units. Page 48 of your book, you claim that women should not be in combat roles, because men are distracted by women. And then 10 weeks ago, you appeared on the Sean Ryan show and said, I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. Now, I presume you recall making all these statements?
Senator, I'm not familiar with the article you're pointing to in 2013, but it underscores my argument completely, because in that 2013 argument, I was talking about standards.
No,
standards are what it's always been about,
Senator. Let's not have
Senator.
this same fight again.
Always been about Senate
I've quoted
standards.
you directly. We've got the video. We're happy to show it. But I want to be clear here. For 12 years, you were quite open about your views, and your views were consistently the same. Women are inferior soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and guardians. And in case anyone missed the point, and these are your words from 10 weeks ago, women absolutely straight up should not be permitted to serve in combat. And I notice on each of these quotes, those are said without qualification. It's not by how much you can lift or how fast you can run. They don't belong in combat, period, or your words, straight up. And then on November 9th, 2024, just 32 days after your last public comment saying that women absolutely should not be in combat, you declared that, quote, some of our greatest warriors are women, and you support having them serve in combat. Now, that is a very, very big about-face in a very, very short period of time. So help me understand, Mr. Hegseth, what extraordinary event happened in that 32-day period that made you change the core values you had expressed for the preceding 12 years?
Senator, again, I very much appreciate you bringing up my comments from 2013 because for me, this issue has always been about standards. And unfortunately, because of some of the people that have been in political power for the last 4 years, priorities other than standards, lethality, and meritocracy have driven decision-making.
I'm quoting you from the podcast. Women shouldn't be in combat at all. Where is the reference to standards? That they should be there if they can carry, if they can run? I don't see that at all, Mr. Hegseth. What I see is that there's a 32-day period in which you suddenly have another description about your views of women in the military. And I just want to know, what changed in the 32 days that the song you sang is not the song you come in here today to sing?
Senator, the concerns I have and the concerns that many have had, especially in ground combat units, is that in pursuit of certain percentages or quotas, standards have been changed. And that makes the combat more difficult for everybody involved.
Let me make a suggestion about what happened in that 32 days. You got a nomination from President Trump. Now, I've heard of deathbed conversions, but this is the first time I've heard of a nomination conversion. And I hope you understand that many women serving in the military right now might think that if you can convert so rapidly your long-held and aggressively pursued views in just 32 days, that 32 days after you get confirmed, maybe you'll just reverse those views and go back to the old guy who said straight up, women do not belong in combat. Now, Mr. Hegseth, you have written that after they retire, generals should be banned from working for the defense industry for 10 years. You and I agree on the corrosive effects of the revolving door between the Pentagon and defense contractors. It's something I would have liked to talk with you about if you'd come and been willing to visit with me. But the question I have for you on this is, will you put your money where your mouth is and agree that when you leave this job, you will not work for the defense industry for 10 years?
Senator, it's not even a question I've thought about because
it's not one. Think about it right now.
It's not one. My motivation for this job
I understand
has never
that.
been
I just
about
need
what
a
could
yes or no
conceivably
here.
come next.
Time is short. I just need a yes or no.
I would consult with the president about what the policy should be
In
at the Defense
other
Department.
words, you're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. But you're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the president
I'll
is.
bet you would.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Tuberville.
Warren began by laying down the facts. No anonymous sources. No hearsay. Just Hegseth's own words on Fox News, on podcasts, and in his book. For more than a decade, he repeatedly said women don't belong in combat, that their presence erodes standards, and even wrote that we need moms, but not in the military. Then Warren zeroed in on the contradiction. Just 10 weeks ago, Hegseth went on air and declared straight up that women should never be in combat. And then poof, 32 days later, after Trump tapped him for defense secretary, suddenly he's praising women warriors and saying he supports them in combat. Warren's question cut to the bone. What happened in those 32 days that flipped your core values? Hegseth dodged, tried to hide behind the word standards, but Warren wasn't having it. She pointed out that his past quotes weren't about fitness tests or physical benchmarks, they were categorical. They were about exclusion. Period. Her punchline landed hard. This looks less like a change of heart, and more like a nomination conversion. In other words, he only evolved because he wanted the job. And if he can reverse 12 years of deeply held, aggressively repeated beliefs in 32 days, why should anyone, especially the women who serve, believe he won't flip right back once he's in power? Then Warren pivoted to another vulnerability. Corruption at the Pentagon. She reminded everyone that Hegseth himself once argued generals should be banned from taking jobs with defense contractors for 10 years after leaving the service. A strong stance against the military-industrial revolving door. But when Warren asked him to make that same pledge for himself as Secretary of Defense, he refused. Suddenly, the man who once preached about integrity decided the rule should only apply to others, not him. As Warren put it, sauce for the goose, but not sauce for the gander. This was vintage Warren. Methodical, relentless. She came prepared with receipts, and Hegseth simply couldn't reconcile his own record. His refusal to make even a basic pledge about defense contractor lobbying just underscored the hypocrisy. And politically, the bigger picture is this. Trump's nominee is coming in with a record that alienates 250,000 women in uniform. That's not just bad optics. It's a direct threat to morale, recruitment, and the credibility of the Department of Defense itself. So here's the takeaway. Warren exposed Hegseth for what he is, a man who spent over a decade denigrating women in the military, only to suddenly see the light when it meant getting a powerful job. If that's not opportunism, I don't know what is. And if he won't even commit to cleaning up the Pentagon's revolving door, then what exactly is he bringing to the table besides Trump's political loyalty? What do you think? Is Warren right to call this a nomination conversion? Or do you buy Hegseth's excuse that it's just about standards? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe. We've got more of these hearings to break down.